Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations for New Comic Book Day.
Mhm.
And it's an average-sized week,
Yeah.
filled with a bunch of great books.
Including a bunch of number ones.
Alls we've got up here is
Yeah.
number ones this week, which is super fun.
Mhm.
So let's dig right in. And it's probably not a shocker to the regular watchers, but you picked an X book.
To be fair, it's been a little bit.
It has been quite a while, actually. In fact, I think I picked the last couple X books.
You might. I know. I did pick Immortal X-Men the last issue.
Oh, that's true.
So no, it hasn't been that long actually, which is actually a good one to reference because what we've got here is Rise of the Powers of 10, which kind of feeds directly off of the revelations from Immortal X-Men. I don't know how much I can get into spoilers for that yet. It's only been like a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah, no, probably not too much. But.
Yeah, but basically, so without getting into too much for that, what this series is, so right now, Marvel's like they're kind of in like their like, I don't know, wind down period isn't probably the best way of putting it, but like they're like we're in like the end stage of like the Krakoan era.
I think burning it to the ground might be the
a little bit, yeah. So for that, they've got two companion series. Last week we had Fall of the House of X.
Yes.
This week we've got Rise of the Powers of 10. Just kind of like a callback to, we were just talking about before this, to like back to 2019, the whole thing that started all this with.
Right.
Yeah. And in the vein of that, so this story is set about like 10 years into the future. If you think things are not great for mutants right now, they're going to be a lot worse. And it's just kind of like the last team of X-Men. You've got Wolverine, you've got Synch, you've got something's happened to Kate in the last couple of years.
Yes.
You've got Kamala Khan is now Captain Krakoa. You've got a weird Iron Man suit hanging around.
Yep.
They're
just Tony's imprinted AI,
yeah,
what have you.
They're so like it's kind of like they're the last like stand against the coming Dominion. Nimrod and the Omega Sentinel are kind of like trying to like sacrifice humanity for it. And
their end goal is, I mean, it's interesting.
I love how Nimrod puts at one point. It's like if Terminator had a happy ending.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love how anytime they're able to like really strike that like good middle ground of like Nimrod's kind of silly, but he's also terrifying.
Yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's this kind of this last stand. You've got some of the other elements that have been like hanging around in the current era, like Dr. Stasis is there, the Children of the Vault are there, and it all kind of like comes together. And then there's kind of like a curveball thrown at you, and you realize like, oh, maybe not everything is as it appears. And
that's just the first curveball that's thrown at you.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple curveballs in here, and like by the end of this issue, you kind of realize like, oh, this is what's actually like going to be going down now.
Yes,
like
there are players upon players upon players, all with their own.
Yeah, there's a moment from last week's Fall that now kind of makes a lot more sense of like, oh, this is why that happened. Like you kind of like you're like already seeing like how the two series are like interconnecting, like what happens in one, how it affects the other.
Yeah,
and I don't know, the Krakoan Age might be ending. They're going out with a bang. Like this issue is just a lot of fun. It's so cool seeing R.B. Silva back doing X-Men art.
So good.
Like I'm so happy to see him back. His stuff is always fantastic. I don't know. Like, this whole era is what made me an X-Men fan, so it's like it's bittersweet to see it ending. I'm super curious to see like what happens next. They still got a bunch more stuff coming out the next couple months. We've got the Resurrection Magneto starts this month. There's a new Cable mini coming out. They've got X-Men Forever, which is also kind of tied into some of the Immortal X-Men stuff coming in, I think, March.
Yeah.
So still plenty of really good X-Men stuff. New Wolverine arc started this week. That's also fantastic. If you love Sabretooth, boy howdy, is there a lot of him.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I felt like the whole X-wing of the Marvel comic books kind of languished in a limbo for a while.
Yeah.
There were books that started that had potential, and then they just kind of sputtered out. They just never really sustained very well. And then along came Jonathan Hickman and the whole Krakoan era. And so, yeah, for that to be coming to an end, it's it's worrisome, especially when they announced it before we really started seeing where they were going with it. But it's kind of like when a TV series goes out when it's still really good.
Yeah.
It doesn't get the chance to lessen the quality of the overall product by being not as good at the end. So all the X books were still great at the end. Is it weird that in the apocalyptic future, it gives me hope for where the X books are going to end up? Because I'm really very interested in just how, I don't want to give too much away, but in how things are starting to set up. Not that we're getting much of a glimpse of what it's going to be, but I think in seeing how they're ending things in such a good manner, that gives me hope for what these books are going to be. I don't know. It's hard to say without giving away too much.
Like they're like once you read it, you'll definitely see like how the picture is forming.
It's so good, and it fits in so well with the whole, Nimrod and his character arc and everything fits so well through the entire Krakoan era and right through to the end where he's talking here. And it reminds me so much of the space station assault. Remember that? Yeah, so good. So good. But anyway, all right, well, on to another number one.
Yeah.
And I went with Zorro, Man of the Dead, number one. This is by Massive, which that's got to be their debut on here, right?
Are they also the ones who were doing... So this is from Sean Gordon Murphy. Most people probably know him from his White Knight series of Batman titles at DC. He's done other stuff too, but he's had some other series going on recently. I think it's Plot Holes. Yeah. I think that might also be from them.
Did that make it on the list? Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, well, whenever I try to remember something on these videos, you correct me. And I
try at least. But anyways, Zorro, he's back.
So this is this is written and drawn by Sean Murphy, and without just saying his name, as the artist tells you, this is drawn beautifully. This is amazing. So if you only read one Zorro book this year, this is the one to read.
I see. Now you're just making me wish we had multiple Zorro books coming out, because that would just be great.
It would be very interesting.
But the fact that we're only getting one and it's this good is at least good enough for me.
So, there are a lot of publishers who are kind of small and on the fringe of the comic book publishing industry. They don't make the size of Image or Marvel or DC, who will pick up public domain properties like Zorro and tell stories with them. And a lot of times they're, so when I see a Zorro book or Phantom or, something like that, Mandrake the Magician or something, like I always get a little nervous. Like, are they just doing this because it's a property that they know will sell a minimum number of titles and, that's all they really care about? This is a really interesting story. So to say that it's an updated version of Zorro is not quite right, but this particular story of Zorro takes place in modern times. Well, there's a flashback to begin with, but, relatively modern times. So 20 years ago and now.
Yeah.
Man, how much do I say? It's just really good. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but suffice it to say that there may or may not have been an actual Zorro as told in the original story in, Spanish colonial times in California, right? And that is being celebrated in a small town 20 years ago, and then a drug cartel was in town and don't really care for it. No. And that's the setup.
Yeah. I love there's this interesting familia aspect to it that part of what I enjoyed in some of the more recent film outings, I say recent it hasn't been 20 years since the last one, but I don't know, the concept of how you take something like Zorro and then have him deal with family stuff, just I don't know, it's interesting to me. It's the same thing with a lot of superheroes, just these characters who Batman quote unquote operates alone, but has this huge supporting cast of characters around how that impacts him as a character. I love getting to see that happen with Zorro here.
Yes. Yes, and so Zorro is often used as an inspiration for Batman in DC continuity.
Mm-hmm.
There is kind of, when that is the case, you tell a Zorro story that is based on Zorro lore and, past stories and everything. There are going to be some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some good similarities there. But yes, I like the family dynamic that's being set up here.
Yeah, especially
it's really cool.
Yeah, especially like with how like at the end of the issue, like how it's setting up, just like some stuff's like a little off.
Yes, and it's that slightly off kilter element, which I'm not going to name what it is, but it's that slightly off kilter element that's going to make this book so much fun.
Yeah,
because anything can happen. Like things are going to be wild.
Yeah,
and between the art and the storytelling and everything, like this book, I knew when I saw Sean Gordon Murphy attached to it that this was going to be worth checking out. I'm really, really excited about this. And if you would have told me in December of 2023 that, Zorro book would be one of my favorite new books in 2024, I'd tell you were crazy.
I would have believed you.
Yeah, well, okay. All right, well, on to a book that a lot of people are anticipating to be great.
We kept saying it was going to be on here, and lo and behold, it was on here.
I kind of half expected it to underwhelm. Not because the creative team had any opportunity for that to be the case.
That would have been so funny.
Yeah.
But nope, it's Ultimate Spider-Man #1. So a quick catch up on the new kind of Ultimate stuff. So if anyone hasn't been reading kind of the setup stuff they've been doing, so it's
I didn't. I skipped it all.
Oh, so that makes it even more impressive that you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But for those of you who like Patrick who didn't want to read good comics, but
what? There's only so many.
I know.
My brain can only handle so much.
If I actually bought everything I wanted to buy, I wouldn't have any money.
Yeah.
But no, so this new Ultimate Universe, so it's not like a exact reboot of the old one or a continuation of the old one. Basically, what happened is actually going back to the old Ultimate Universe, Evil Reed, the maker, found an Earth. Wanted to kind of mold it into its perfect image, and in doing so kind of made it so most of the superheroes in the world never happened.
Yeah, actively stopped it from happening.
And so because of that, Peter Parker never got bit by a spider, grew up, he's in his 30s now, he's married to Mary Jane, they've got kids, he's got a good job, he's got a good life, everything's looking pretty good considering how things are looking for Peter.
On paper, yeah. On paper, everything should be okie dokie.
Yeah, but he's just got this gnawing sense of there's something missing in his life, and it's been eating away at him for years now. And some of the other recent events in the Ultimate Universe have kind of conspired to finally reveal to him that yeah, maybe that's the case, and maybe some of the things going on in your life, because there are some recent developments that aren't so great for him. Maybe there's something you can do about that. Maybe, and I don't know. I don't. It's hard to almost describe how much I enjoyed this book. The fact that a good chunk of this book is just a couple other people from the Bugle just hanging out and having conversation about stuff, and it's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, gripping. Right?
Yeah, you can
I
just
was so zoned in on this book.
There's just I could just read a book that's just the Bugle workplace stuff. Honest to God,
Ultimate Bugle.
Yeah, Ultimate Daily Bugle. I love it. But we were talking a lot before. Honestly, she's not even in the book that much, but just the little bit you get of Mary Jane in here, it's just she's so just fun, and you just get this rock solid feel, just how she is as a person. She is so much her own person, but she's also so willing to be there for others when they need her.
Yep.
And willing to kind of tell them hey man, if you think you gotta do this, you gotta do it. I don't know. The kids, I love the kids already. The whole conversation with Peter and Richard at the end is just a fun little thing. I love this version of Jameson. He's got that right level of he's kind of a jerk, but in like in a different way than we're kind of used to.
Less of a dumbfire missile jerk, and more of a specifically directed at people.
Yeah, he's a very he's not just like a bomb going off. He's like a missile, like aimed directly at you. There's some other interesting characters that we're seeing for the first time in the Ultimate Universe. These versions of them, some of them you kind of like, you're not too surprised to see like what their status quo is, if they were never like a certain character or not. Others just like, yeah, of course you're doing this.
Right. Yeah. And so there's this common thread of loss that we can already see in this issue is going to connect all of the players that we're just getting introduced to in this issue together. And there's that loss was part of the whole maintaining the status quo of no superheroes. Yeah. And so the superhero can of worms is going to be opened up, obviously. Because, we've got some, additional titles coming out, and
maybe
that's the whole point of this.
Or maybe superhero can of spiders.
Oh, God, a can of spiders.
Actually, no, that sounds terrifying. Take that back.
Horrible, yeah. Marco Cacchetto does the art on this and had a fantastic run on Daredevil.
The fact that like he does these small moments so well. He does like the couple action scenes we do get, like how this just like there's just this energy to them, like the explosions. Yeah.
And so we were talking about what makes Amazing Spider-Man such a great title throughout the years. Yeah, right. And one of the things was the strength of the cast of characters that are, I'm not even going to say supporting cast, because they're just in Peter's world. Yeah. They're not even in his orbit. And that's what's so different is so many of the books focus solely on, how the other people impact just the main character. And this, for me, Amazing Spider-Man has always been about, it's such a well-developed world of individuals who are their own people, who are in Peter's life. And it's not, their function is not just to continue an Amazing Spider-Man story going on, right? They kind of have their own thing going. It just gives it this better feel of gravity and realism. This issue, in just a handful of pages, does such a good job of capturing that and creating these complex characters that are going to inhabit this world that we're seeing. I just loved it. And I don't want to say too many names because this is an alternate version or alternate universe for Peter that he's living in, or an alternate universe Peter. So it's just really well done. And
it makes me, like, I was already excited for like all the new Ultimate books coming out. We've got Ultimate Black Panther coming out next month. We've got Ultimate X-Men coming in March. It technically hasn't been like officially announced, but like for Free Comic Book Day, they've got new Ultimate story from Dennis Camp, who did 20th Century Men last year, which was one of my favorite series of all time now. Also did the recent Children of the Vault mini. And he like confirmed like, yeah, I'm going to be doing an Ultimates ongoing coming out of that sometime probably this summer. So I'm going to be buying everything Ultimate, and my mom's going to hate me, but I'm going to love it. I'm going to love it completely. Like, I'm so excited for this new universe.
Well, and how Ultimate Spider-Man finally comes into being in this. The method in which he becomes Spider-Man opens the door for so many more. I mean, it alludes to the fact that there are a bunch more out there, so it's got to be beyond just Black Panther and X-Men.
It makes you Ultimates. It almost makes you wonder, like, how much, like, because there's a certain other character that shows up in here, like, how much their appearance time to this is like connected, possibly.
Oh, I hadn't even put that together, which would be an interesting choice.
Yeah, because it's then also part of you is wondering like what certain people, like what information they're running off of. Maybe they might be misunderstanding some of it and have maybe made an oopsie-doo.
Oh.
Yeah, like so I'd be very curious to see like how that might factor in.
Turns out having an 8-year-old hovering around you while you're reading a book has maybe missed a couple little subtle details. Well, hopefully you won't miss out on any of the great books that are coming out this week. Like I said, it's an average-sized week, but there's a lot of good, steady, solid titles that have been ongoing, and I think, these 3 number ones are some of the best number ones that we've had in a single week together. And
starting off the year super strong.
It's very good. But yeah, and we've got a bunch of stuff. Transformers continues to be great. There's just so much good stuff coming out right now. But so be sure to get on into the store. If you can't, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, check us out on the social medias. And we've got the app and the website where if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on anything, you can have a book set aside or even buy it and have it mailed to you. So we will be back next week with more great picks. And until then, enjoy all of your reading. Be safe, be well. We'll see you next week. How weird would it be if you met Marco Pichetto in person and he's just got giant heels?
I draw from life.